Happy Monday, storytellers. Good to see you guys. Carrie Severson here, your friendly storyteller trainer. I am recovering from the first flu I've had in I can't tell you how long. So I have two cool stories to tell you before I launch into this little mini training or live around this concept of storytelling around traumatic experiences. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm a published writer for 20 years. I'm an intuitive. I'm a storyteller trainer for women in the world who have a desire to share stories and want to get them out in published formats. This year I'm really focusing on the energy of story and changing the energy of your story. And so I'm partnering with two additional intuitives this year, Johanna Gardner and Elizabeth Grooms. So a couple weeks ago, Elizabeth is a chakra healer, and I went through this chakra circuit session with her. We healed a bunch of old stuff within my chakras, and we reprogrammed my chakras. Johanna and I did this deep dive to recognize and find the root of an old story that no longer serves me. And so that was in between the weeks of Christmas and New Year. And the changes that occurred in my life, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, has been astronomical. And I'm pretty sure I caught the flu from expressing all these old toxins pent up in my body, or at least I got flu-like symptoms. It was crazy. So, and like I said, if I ever get sick, it's like a sinus infection, but I never ever get the flu. I can't tell you the last time I had it. So my mom was super sweet, and she packed up this care package for me because I typically have Sunday night dinners with my family. So they brought over this bag full of all these goodies, soup, and pretzel rolls and stuff, and in it was this rock. Really pretty, right? Hi, Nisha. And so this morning I thanked my mom for the care package, and I thanked her for the rock. And she's like, "What are you talking about? I didn't put a rock in your care package." And I'm like, "Oh, well, maybe my sister did." So I asked my sister, I'm like, "Did you give this to me? This is really sweet. Thank you so much." And she's like, "No." So I sent a picture of this thing to my mom, and turns out this is my grandma's, who passed away 15 years ago. And nobody knows how this got in the bag that was sent to me as a care package. Isn't that sweet? For my fellow intuitives and soul sisters, we know how this got there, but I was just like, oh, that's so cool. Okay, so last Friday had a couple of canceled sessions. So I had some time to really create, and really interested in answering questions for you guys in these lives this year. So Diane Joyner posted a bunch of questions for me to answer in lives this week. So the first one I'm answering today is, she posted a question around, she has several ideas for books that based on major turning points or traumatic experiences that she's had in her life. And she's wondering if it matters which story to write first. And I'm going to say, yes, it does matter. So I'm all about the energy of story, right? When we're creating something from a place of resentment or hate or anger, that's what the audience is going to pick up on. We're actually fighting an uphill battle because of the resistance to getting that story out there in the world. So you're going to have a harder time getting it published, if it does get published. Imagine being on the receiving end of that, even from an editor's perspective. Do you really want to put that out in the world, knowing that that's what you're going to cause a ripple effect with? Hate, anger, resentment. When you're sharing, when your story stems from a traumatic experience, it's incredibly important that you feel ready to share it, and you feel like the experience is, if it's not fully healed, you're in the acceptance component of it. Because I think these traumatic experiences that we all have, I don't know if you're ever fully recovered from them. It could be a consistent healing process. You show up every day and you turn your light on and you accept it and you embrace it and you heal it and you face it. So what I would love for you to really ask yourself is, freeform write about your traumatic experiences. If you've got 3 major turning points with 3 traumatic experiences, write each experience on the top of a page and freeform write for like 15-20 minutes around each of those experiences, and then put it down for a little bit. Chances are you're going to have a ton of emotional stuff come up. I can see people like breathing really heavily, clenching their chest, having to take some breaks. That's all good. It's good to get that out, right? When you're moving into the space of sharing it publicly, knowing that there's hundreds, thousands, possibly millions of people that are going to read this thing over the course of time, it's incredibly important that you recognize your boundaries, because you don't want to trigger yourself negatively, right? So make sure when you're writing, ask yourself, am I ready to share this? And am I in the acceptance of this experience? If you aren't fully healed, you have to be in the acceptance of it, so that you're not sharing blame out in the world. You aren't spreading anger, hate, resentment. It is you sharing your experience, and also hopefully some lessons, so that somebody else going through it can see your post, see your story, pick it up, embrace it, and connect with it from a heart perspective, right? So once you have freeform writing and you're able to answer those questions, here's some tips on how to recognize the energy of your story. Are you able to talk about that experience without tightening up in your throat, without clearing your throat, without your heart, your chest sort of tightening up? Definitely your stomach cramping or you getting stressed. Are you able to talk about the experience from a place of peace and flow? When I work with clients and we're talking about these traumatic experiences, I have to clear my throat a lot, because we're working through a ton of throat chakra stuff. You literally proclaiming your story out in the world and me helping you find the right outlet to get it published. I pick up energetically on all the stuff that you're going through too, so I'm consistently clearing my throat. Even on these lives, I have to do that. So if you're able to talk about your experience without crying, without screaming, without tightening your throat, chest, or heart, chances you are in the acceptance of it. So that is the story to start with. And my guess is, if you've got several traumatic experiences and several major turning points in your life, unless you're a badass rock star who's been in ongoing therapy forever, chances are not every one of those stories is in the acceptance space. And that's fine too. So start with the story that you feel at ease with the most and that you're able to talk about as peacefully as possible. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, right? So now my spidey sense kind of kicks in, and so oftentimes as writers we have these big grand ideas to turn every major lesson in our life into a book, which is great. The overwhelming part though is a book is an elephant and you've got to take one bite at a time, right? Where I come in is helping you take that big grand story idea and break it down into smaller slices so that you start to put the energy of writing into that theme or that story. So rather than look at your big traumatic experience as a book idea, which can be overwhelming, break it down into smaller essays first. What lessons did you learn from that experience? Can you give me 3 points in which you learned from traumatic experience 1? That's one story idea. Start there. You're writing a 500 to 800 word essay around that one lesson. around those 3 lessons you learned in that one traumatic experience. That is where you start. And then you just start letting it snowball you into another story and another story and another story, and pretty soon you've got the momentum going that you can see your book. I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. So that's sort of what I wanted to come on here with today. It does matter. Get in the right energy of it. Look at it from a personal essay perspective before the book, and let it roll. If you have any questions on this or whatever else you'd like me to answer in these lives, please post questions on the wall. I've got 4 additional questions from Diane that I'm going to answer the rest of the week, and then I will answer more questions next week. And as always, a really good place for you to start writing essays is with Storytelling Your Way to Success, which is my 3-week introductory program. It's just storytellingyourwaytosuccess.com. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. Happy storytelling, you guys.